Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we are stepping into a very, very different kind of training ground.
Yeah, definitely a paradigm shift with this one.
It really is. I want you to picture a dojo. You know the vibe?
Right.
The pristine mats, the smell of discipline, the silence right before the strike.
A focus.
Exactly, the focus. But this dojo, it isn't for your body.
No.
It's for your soul. We are looking at this really fascinating piece of source material today titled Spiritual Martial Arts, the Discipline of Fasting.
Such a great title.
And honestly, this completely reframed how I think about the entire concept of self-denial.
It is a striking image, isn't it? The dojo of the soul. I
Ah.
think I think for a lot of people, fasting is just instantly associated with diet culture.
Oh, 100%.
Or maybe like a really solemn religious obligation that feels, I don't know, a bit like punishment.
Yeah, just deprivation for the sake of it.
Right. But this source turns that completely on its head. It posits that fasting isn't about deprivation at all. It is literally combat training.
Combat training. Exactly. The premise here is that we tend to treat our physical bodies and our human spirits as these totally separate entities.
We do.
Like, we go to the gym to prep our muscles for physical stress. We lift weights, we do cardio.
But we leave our spirits completely flatty.
Yes, completely out of shape.
Yeah.
The source argues that if physical martial arts is the discipline that prepares your body for an assault, then fasting is the martial arts of the soul.
It's a training ground.
It's the training ground.
And that distinction is vital because the source makes this really profound point. You don't learn to fight during the war.
Right.
You learn to fight in the training camp,
In the dojo.
in the dojo. If you wait until a crisis hits, until you are suddenly hit with a massive tragedy or some blinding moral temptation,
It's too late.
it's way too late. If you try to build spiritual muscle in that moment, you're going to get crushed. You have to train on the benign to survive the malignant.
Train on the benign to defeat the malignant. I love that. That is the core thesis we really need to start with today.
It anchors everything.
Because on the surface, skipping lunch, which is a totally benign act, it doesn't really seem like it has anything to do with resisting a massive moral crisis later.
Right.
How does a source actually connect those two totally different worlds?
Well, it comes down to a concept they call the transference of discipline.
Transference of discipline.
Yeah. Think about that physical dojo again. When a martial artist is training, what are they doing? They are often just blocking imaginary strikes.
Like shadow boxing.
Exactly. Or they are sparring with a partner who, isn't actually trying to kill them.
Hopefully not.
Right. They are in a controlled environment. And why do they do that? To build muscle memory.
Yeah.
They are training their nervous system to react without thinking.
So the benign thing in this scenario is the safe, controlled sparring partner.
Exactly. In the context of fasting, the benign things are the things in our life that aren't inherently evil.
Like a sandwich.
A sandwich is not evil. A comfortable chair is not evil. Checking your email, watching a show, these are benign. But they are things that our flesh naturally craves. We want comfort. We want satiety. We want constant stimulation.
So when we voluntarily fast from those things,
When we deny the body something it legitimately needs or enjoys, like that sandwich, we are exercising what the text calls the no muscle.
the no muscle.
Yeah. And the source puts it very bluntly here. It says, if you cannot say no to a sandwich, which is a completely neutral object, how on earth do you expect to say no to a malignant attack?
Wow.
Like pride or blinding anger or lust.
That is a very humble check right there.
It really is.
It's the idea that the internal mechanism of refusal, the actual machinery in your soul that says no, is the exact same mechanism, regardless of what the target is.
Precisely. It's the exact same muscle. You're just lifting a heavier weight when it's a malignant attack.
And the source uses this really incredible historical contrast to illustrate this point.
Yes, the two matches.
The Eden match versus the wilderness match. I thought this was a brilliant comparison. Walk us through that.
Okay, so think about the Garden of Eden. Adam and Eve.
Yep.
They were in paradise. Complete abundance everywhere, perfect environment, and they were asked to fast from one single thing, the fruit of one tree.
Which, as the source points out, wasn't even necessarily an evil object in and of itself. It was just forbidden. It was simply a test of restraint.
Exactly. It was a benign prohibition, and they completely failed.
They did.
And why did they fail? Not because they were starving.
No, they had everything else.
They were completely full. They failed because they lacked spiritual defense. They had never internalized the necessity of saying no to the self.
So they had zero spiritual muscle definition.
None. Because they never had to lift a weight. They'd never trained the no muscle. So when the adversary showed up and suggested they eat it, they crumbled immediately.
Wow. And then you contrast that with the wilderness match,
Right. Jesus in the desert, 40 days of fasting.
the ultimate training camp.
The ultimate. Physically, he is at absolute rock bottom. He is starving. He is physically weak. But spiritually,
Leave.
the source says he was at his most lethal.
Because he had just spent 40 solid days saying no.
Exactly. He had spent 40 days mastering the art of refusal. He had completely subjugated the physical body to the spirit.
Subjugated the body.
Yes. So when the devil shows up this time and brings these massive malignant temptations,
Turn these stones to bread.
throw yourself off the temple, bow down to me for all this worldly power.
Heavy hits.
Very heavy hits. But Jesus didn't falter at all. His no muscle was rock hard.
Because of the transference of discipline.
Exactly. He had transferred the discipline of fasting from bread the benign to defeating the devil the malignant.
That really recontextualizes the whole practice.
Yeah.
It completely shifts it from this mindset of, I'm hungry, so I'm suffering for God.
Right, the martyr complex.
Yeah. It changes it to, I am hungry, so I am learning that my stomach is not the boss of me.
Yes. The subjugation of the will, that's the specific phrase the author uses. You are proving to yourself that the soul is actually the master of the house.
Okay, so that's the overarching philosophy. You're building the no muscle. And we are going to continue to unpack that philosophy. But our main mission today is to get really, really specific.
Time to hit the mats.
Time to hit the mats. The source material outlines a full training regimen, basically a syllabus for the soul. But we are going to zoom in specifically on day 4.
Day 4 is where the rubber really meets the road.
It's titled The Core Strength Intensive. We're going to analyze the specific mechanics of 2 key spiritual attributes, purity and courage.
The foundational blocks.
And what I found so compelling about this section is that the text breaks these concepts down into actual, tangible moves, like tactical drills.
Yeah, it gets very practical.
We're going to talk about the visual sweep, the bold proclamation, and we'll break down the crucial difference between throwing a quick jab versus setting up a heavy counter.
It really does treat Scripture as a weapon system, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. And by the end of this deep dive, we want to understand how a person transitions from just being a practitioner, someone who is just enduring a fast, to what the source calls a warrior.
That transition is everything.
So settle in. We are officially entering the dojo.
Let's do it.
Let's look at day 4. Why specifically day 4? I mean, why not day 1 or day 40?
Well, historically and physiologically, day 4 is the pivot point in a fast.
Okay.
On day 1 and 2, you're running on enthusiasm. Your motivation is high. By day 3, your body is burning through its last glycogen stores.
You hit the wall.
You hit the wall hard. So by day 4, you aren't just hungry anymore. You're irritable. You're deeply fatigued. Your natural defenses are at their absolute lowest.
The honeymoon is over.
Totally over. And that is exactly where the real training begins, because you can no longer rely on your natural good mood or your initial willpower to carry you through.
You actually have to rely on the discipline.
Right. This is the core strength phase. And the source defines core strength not as just a general toughness, but as the specific synthesis of 2 things, purity and courage.
And this is where that martial arts analogy gets so specific and helpful. In physical fighting, if your core is weak, your limbs are practically useless.
Oh, entirely. You can't throw a punch with any power if you can't stabilize your center of gravity.
So the source is arguing that purity and courage are basically the abs and back muscles of the soul.
That is exactly what they are.
Let's start with purity. I think this is a word that carries a ton of baggage for a lot of people today.
Oh, for sure.
It's often just reduced to this puritanical idea of just, don't have dirty thoughts. But the source defines it much more broadly.
It defines it very differently. It defines purity as the clarity of vision.
Clarity of vision.
Yes, it's fundamentally about sight. Seeing things as they truly are without distortion. The source suggests that the attack on purity, whether that's lust or greed or materialism, is actually a smokescreen.
A smokescreen.
Yeah, it clouds your judgment. It makes you genuinely believe that a momentary hit of pleasure is worth sacrificing your long-term integrity.
Which is a complete lie.
Right, so it's a vision problem. You aren't seeing reality clearly. The smoke is in your eyes.
Okay, so on day 4,
Yeah.
how do we train this specific muscle? What is the sparring partner for purity?
For the day 4 intensive, the benign fast they assign is a fast from visual clutter and self-indulgence.
Ooh, That one hits a little too close to home.
It's tough. It means fasting from mindless media.
No doom scrolling.
Zero doom scrolling.
Right.
No window shopping online. No just leaving the streaming service running in the background just to have some noise.
Just stripping it all away.
Stripping away the visual candy that we constantly feed our eyes. The instruction is to only look at what is necessary.
You're depriving the eyes of their usual junk food.
Precisely. Because the malignant attack we are preparing to face down the line is what the text calls the lust of the eyes, or double-mindedness.
Double-mindedness. Explain that.
It's that exhausting state where you are trying to look at the temptations of the world and look at God at the exact same time.
You're divided.
You're completely divided. Your vision is split.
And the counter move the text provides for this.
The foundational scripture here is Matthew 5:8. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God.
See God. There it is again.
It all comes back to sight. If you want to actually see God, if you want clear, undistorted navigation for your life, you have to learn how to clear the smoke.
Okay, let's get into the tactical drill for this. This was one of my absolute favorite parts of the text because it makes it so physical. The drill is called the visual sweep.
The visual sweep, yes, this is a reflex drill.
Break down how it works moment by moment.
The source describes it as a practical, moment-by-moment defense. So here is the everyday scenario. You are just going about your business, you're walking down the street, or you're online. And suddenly, your eye catches a trigger.
Could be an attractive person walking by. Could be an ad for a car you can't afford but you covet. Could be a really toxic clickbait headline that makes you angry.
Right. Anything that acts as a hook, a malignant thought or image just flickers onto the screen of your mind.
The bait is dropped.
The bait is there. The visual sweep dictates that you must physically look away.
Physically.
You actually physically turn your head. Or you avert your eyes to the floor. And the second you do that, you verbally or internally declare ownership.
What's the declaration?
You say, my eyes belong to the king.
My eyes belong to the king. It's a literal declaration of property rights.
It is, and it's crucial. It's not just about avoiding the bad thing. It's about immediately redirecting the focus back to the rightful owner.
Why is the physical act of turning the head so important here? Because I can hear someone asking, why can't I just keep looking straight ahead and mentally say nope to the thought?
Because of the muscle memory. That is the whole point of the dojo. The source argues that we desperately need to train the brain that the eyes are not passive receptors.
We treat them like they are.
We do. We tend to think, oh, I just saw it. It was in my field of vision. I couldn't help it.
Right.
The training says no. The eyes are active gates. You are the one who decides what comes in and what stays out. By physically turning your head, you are violently breaking that neural loop.
You are stopping the smoke screen before it has a chance to settle.
Exactly. It's like a martial artist parrying a physical blow.
Yeah.
You don't let the punch land on your jaw and then say, ouch. You deflect it mid-air.
Mid-air.
Yeah.
And the speed is what matters.
The speed is everything. The visual sweep has to happen the absolute instant the recognition occurs.
The hesitation.
If you linger, if you stare at that image for 3 seconds, the smoke has already filled the room.
You've already lost the clarity of vision.
Yes. Purity is about that split-second reflex of redirection.
So purity is the reflex of redirection. Let's pivot now to the second half of that core strengths. Courage. The source contrasts these two heavily, which I found fascinating. Because if purity is about moving your eyes away,
Courage is about keeping your feet firmly planted.
keeping the stance.
Yes. The formal definition of courage in Day 4 is the stability of stance.
Stability of stance.
And it makes a really important clarification here. Courage is not the absence of fear.
That's a huge relief to hear, honestly.
The source is crystal clear on that. You can be absolutely terrified, shaking in your boots, and still be perfectly courageous.
Because courage is an action, not a feeling.
Exactly. Courage is refusing to flee when things get difficult. It is holding the stance.
I love that distinction. It makes it feel so much more actionable. So what is the sparring partner for courage? How do we train the stance on Day 4?
The sparring partner here is fasting from comfort and safety.
Okay, this is the one that people are really going to hate.
Oh, nobody likes this drill.
Yeah, turning away from a screen is one thing, but the source suggests some really uncomfortable stuff.
It does. It suggests taking a freezing cold shower. Or sitting on a hard wooden chair all day instead of your ergonomic office chair or your soft couch.
Just unnecessary discomfort.
Or doing something socially awkward, like finally initiating that difficult conversation you've been avoiding for weeks. The goal is to deliberately introduce benign difficulty into your normal routine.
But why? Why purposely make ourselves miserable when life is already hard enough?
To train the soul to tolerate the tremor.
Tolerate the tremor.
When we are comfortable, we feel inherently safe. The moment comfort is removed, the exact second the shower water turns freezing cold, or the chair makes your back ache, our deeply ingrained biological instinct is to flee.
Right. Fix it.
We want to fix it. We want to get back to safety immediately.
That's the classic flight response.
Yes. And the malignant attack we are training to face is intimidation, the fear of man.
The fear of what other people think.
Exactly. Or what the source vividly calls the low sweep of cowardice.
A low sweep.
It's that moment when you know you need to speak up in a meeting, or you know you have to stand firm on a deeply held value, but the sudden fear of the consequences, the fear of rejection, hits you behind the knees and makes you want to run.
It knocks you off balance. So how does standing in a cold shower actually help me stand up for my values in a boardroom?
Because it teaches your nervous system that you can survive discomfort. It profoundly decouples the sensation of pain from the action of retreating.
Decouples it. Wow.
It teaches you that the internal signal flashing, "This is unpleasant," does not automatically mean I must leave the room.
That is profound. You feel the pain, but you hold the stance.
Exactly. And the tactical drill to practice this is called the bold proclamation.
Walk us through the execution of this drill.
Okay, so imagine a strike of fear hits you. Maybe it's a sudden wave of anxiety about the future, or you feel intimidated by a confrontational email from your boss. The drill is very physical again. First, you stand up straight.
Posture correction.
You physically correct your posture. Shoulders back, chest out, feet planted.
Body language leading the spirit.
Always. You engage the physical body to anchor the spiritual reality. You stand up and you pray this specific verse out loud or forcefully in your mind. Lord, your strength is made perfect in my weakness.
From 2 Corinthians.
Yes. And here's the actual discipline part of the drill. You do not sit back down until the physical tremor of that anxiety completely passes.
You literally outweight the shake.
You outweight it, you hold your ground. You are actively training your soul to convert that low sweep of intimidation into a moment to practice fortitude.
You're using the attack as a rep in the gym.
Exactly. You are telling your central nervous system, we are not running from this. We are staying right here in this uncomfortable spot until the peace of God arrives.
So it really is the exact opposite of purity. Purity says, run away with your eyes immediately. Courage says, do not move your feet an inch.
Precisely. One is a highly tuned reflex of avoidance avoiding evil. The other is a highly tuned reflex of endurance enduring pressure.
And together.
Together, they make up the core strength. You can avoid the traps and you can withstand the hits.
Okay, so we have built the core strength. We had the stance of courage and the clear vision of purity. Now, the text explains that this stable foundation is what actually allows us to finally use offensive weapons.
Right.
Because you can't throw a solid punch if you don't have a stable stance.
No. If you try to fight the devil while you're totally off balance and blinded by the smokescreen of your own desires, you are going to lose. Badly.
So we need weapons. And the source categorizes these weapons into two distinct types. And I found this tactical distinction incredibly helpful. We have quick jabs and heavy counters.
Striking mechanics.
Let's start with the quick jabs. What are they?
The quick jabs are your primary defensive maneuvers. These are short, punchy, what the author calls victory verses.
Victory verses.
And the key characteristic here is absolute speed. They are reflexes. You deploy them the exact second an impulse flickers in your mind.
Before the smoke settles.
Exactly.
Can you give us the specific examples from the source material?
Sure. Let's say an impure thought pops up. Bam, you throw Psalm 51 point in telling, create in me a clean heart, O God.
You don't analyze it.
You don't meditate on the temptation for an hour. You throw the verse like a fast jab. It clears the smoke immediately.
Quick strike. What about for fear?
Sudden fear hits Isaiah 12.2. I will trust and not be afraid. That plants the feet.
Nice. And what if you're just exhausted on day 4 and want to quit the fast?
The urge to quit, Philippians 4.13. I can do all things through Christ. That jab recharges your endurance.
And anger.
Someone cuts you off in traffic or insults you, Proverbs 15.1. A soft answer turns away wrath. It neutralizes their momentum instantly.
Now, the source mentions something really interesting about the sword training here. It says these specific verses must be unsheathed. What does that mean practically?
Think about a physical sword. A sword sitting in a scabbard on your hip is just a heavy, useless piece of metal.
Right. It looks nice, but it won't save you.
Exactly. To unsheath it means to actually speak it out loud, or at the very least, to articulate it aggressively and clearly in your mind. You can't just vaguely remember that there's a verse about peace somewhere in the Bible.
You have to draw the weapon.
You have to draw it. And the source suggests repeating these jabs in rapid sets of 3.
Sets of 3, like a combo.
Like a boxing combo. Create in me a clean heart. Create in me a clean heart. Create in me a clean heart.
It's rhythmic.
It's highly rhythmic. It helps you visualize the strike landing. And more importantly, it aggressively cuts the thought pattern of the temptation before it can root.
Okay, so those are the quick jabs. They are fast, reflexive, used for those sudden little flickers of attack, but then the text moves on to the heavy counters.
Yeah, this is a different class of move entirely.
How does a heavy counter differ from a jab?
A heavy counter is positional defense.
Positional defense.
You use a heavy counter when the jab simply didn't work, or when the attack coming at you is just much heavier than a flicker.
When you are cornered.
When you are totally cornered. Or when you are facing a long, sustained pressure, like a massive hunger pang that just won't go away for 3 hours. Or a deep worry about your finances that is just gnawing at you all day long.
A quick jab isn't going to fix a 3-hour hunger pang.
No. You can't just jab away a deep depression or a systemic temptation. You need leverage. You have to fundamentally change your position on the mat.
The example given in the text for feeling cornered is James 4.7.
Submit to God. Resist the devil and he will flee.
Okay, break that down. Why is that a heavy counter?
Because it requires a massive 2-part body movement of the soul.
2 parts.
First movement, submit to God.
What does that look like spiritually?
That's going low. That is literally falling to your knees. That is yielding your ego, yielding your will, yielding your desperate need to control the situation. You are drastically lowering your center of gravity.
Okay, and the second part?
Second movement, resist the devil. That's raising the shield. That is the active, immovable defiance. But here is the secret of the move.
You can't do the second without the first.
Exactly. You cannot resist the devil if you haven't submitted to God first.
Because you have no leverage.
According to the source, if you try to resist the adversary in your own natural strength without first submitting your pride to God, you are just fighting in the flesh.
And the flesh is weak.
You will lose that grapple every time. The actual power to resist comes entirely from the submission. That dropping of the ego is the leverage. That is what transforms it from a desperate struggle into a heavy counter.
This is so good. I want to really paint a picture for the listener here, because the source implies that there is a direct mechanical relationship between these moves. Like if you fail the basic drills, you are forced to escalate.
Yes, the mechanics of failure.
Let's construct a scenario based on the text. Let's call it the slide scenario.
Walk us through it.
Okay, imagine a practitioner. It's day 4. They are deep in the fast. They are tired. They are hungry. They are scrolling on their phone, which, as we established, they shouldn't be doing on a visual fast, but they are.
Right. They're already compromising the benign fast. Their guard is down.
Their guard is down. And suddenly they see an image, a temptation. Let's say it's something that directly triggers the lust of the eyes.
Okay. Step 1, the failure of purity. The day 4 drill strictly requires the visual sweep. They're supposed to look away immediately and declare, "My eyes belong to the king."
But they don't do that. They fail the drill. They linger. They just stare at it for 5 seconds.
Now the benign image has officially become malignant. The smoke screen has been fully deployed. Their vision is now clouded by desire. They are sitting there thinking, well, I've already looked this long. Maybe I can just click on it.
Step 2, the escalation.
Exactly. Because they failed to use the visual sweep and they didn't throw a quick jab that reflex verse to clear the smoke, the enemy immediately gains momentum.
It's just spiritual physics.
It is simple physics. An object in motion stays in motion. The temptation is no longer just a brief flicker on a screen. It is now a heavy, sustained internal pressure.
It feels heavy.
Yeah.
The practitioner feels cornered by their own desire.
Right. And now a quick jab is useless. You can't just whisper a quick verse now and expect the desire to vanish. You are officially in a grapple. The enemy has hands on you.
Which leads us to step 3, the absolute necessity of the heavy counter.
This is the emergency brake. They have to pull out James 4.7. They have to stop everything they're doing, drop the phone, maybe literally get down on the floor.
They have to submit.
They have to say, I submit to God. They have to completely surrender the desire that is currently burning in them. And only then can they throw up the shield and resist.
So the ultimate takeaway here is, if you get lazy with the simple visual sweep, you are forcing yourself into a much, much harder, exhausting fight.
Exactly. If you miss the easy parry, you end up on the mat wrestling for your life. It is infinitely more efficient to maintain purity than it is to constantly rely on resilience.
But if purity does fail, the heavy counter is there to save you from tapping out.
It's the safety net.
Speaking of heavy counters,
Yeah.
the source gives us a historical case study that is, well, it's intense.
Oh, Saint Benedict.
Yes, introduce us to St. Benedict.
Saint Benedict of Nursia, 6th century. He is basically the master instructor of this stuff.
This story in the text is wild. So Benedict is living alone in a cave. He's a monk. He's fasting, he's praying, and he faces a massive coordinated attack on his purity.
The source describes it as a vivid memory of a woman he had once known. And it wasn't just a fleeting, passing thought. It was a full sensory invasion.
A massive smokescreen.
It was so thick, it threatened to completely overwhelm his resolve. The text says he was basically packing his bags, ready to leave the cave and completely abandon his spiritual calling.
The temptation was that heavy. So what is his move?
Well, he doesn't try to debate the thought. He doesn't sit there and try to reason with his own lust. He realizes that his position is compromised and he needs a massive, shocking interruption to his nervous system.
He performs the ultimate physical block.
He does. He strips off his monastic cloak and he throws his naked body directly into a thicket of sharp briars and stinging nettles.
Ouch. Just ouch. That is extreme.
The source calls this radical fortitude.
What is the actual logic there, aside from just pure masochism? Because I think the modern listener hears that story and immediately thinks, okay, this guy just completely lost his mind in a cave.
It's not masochism at all. It's a calculated redirection. He took the benign temptation, which was the memory of soft, physical pleasure, and he aggressively replaced it with the sharp, undeniable reality of physical pain.
He used physical pain to cut the mental image.
Exactly. He completely overloaded his nervous system. You cannot sit there and fantasize about pleasure when you are literally rolling in thorns.
It snaps you back to reality.
It forcibly dragged his mind back into the raw, physical present.
And what was the result of this extreme counter?
The historical legend says that he was never bothered by that specific temptation ever again.
Wow.
He crushed it at the root. He basically built a thick scar tissue, a callus, over that vulnerable part of his soul.
Now, obviously, the source isn't necessarily telling the modern reader to go find a thorn bush and jump in it today.
Yeah. No, please don't do that. Keep your clothes on. But the underlying principle stands. Sometimes, when the spiritual attack is incredibly severe and you are cornered, you need a radical physical interruption.
Right.
Maybe that's jumping into a freezing cold shower fully clothed. Maybe it's dropping down and doing burpees until your lungs burn.
You have to break the trance.
You have to break the trance of the temptation.
It really emphasizes that this whole fasting thing is a deeply physical battle, just as much as it is a spiritual one.
They're completely intertwined. You use the body to train the soul.
We're coming into the final stretch of the deep dive now, and I want to make sure we synthesize all of this. The source elegantly wraps up day 4 by connecting all these combat concepts back to the classic armor of God.
Right. Ephesians chapter 6.
We've talked extensively about purity and courage constituting our core strength. How do those two specifically fit into the pieces of the armor?
The source identifies purity as the belt of truth.
The belt.
Yeah. In ancient Roman armor, the belt was foundational. It literally held everything else together. It kept the core tight and supported the lower back. If your belt is loose, your tunic is flapping around, and you are going to trip over your own clothes in battle.
So a lack of purity is like a loose belt.
Exactly. Double-mindedness, looking at the world and looking at God, is like fighting with a loose belt. You're just tripping over your own lies. Purity tightens the core. It locks the truth in place.
And courage, where does that fit?
Courage is the shield of faith.
The shield.
It is what stops the fiery darts. When the sudden fear comes, the intimidation, the anxiety, the what-ifs, you raise the shield, you don't run. You plant your feet and you hide behind the absolute promise of God. That is the stance we talked about.
And the quick jabs and heavy counters.
That is the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of God.
But the catch is?
The catch is you need the belt tight and the shield raised to effectively swing the sword. You need the core strength to fight.
This beautifully brings us to the ultimate goal of the entire training manual. Near the end, the source provides this fascinating training progression table. It outlines the journey from novice to practitioner to warrior.
This is the graduation path?
Right. So a novice, which the text defines as someone in the first 12 hours of a fast, is just learning to recognize the basic impulses, like, oh, I'm hungry.
Just basic awareness.
Then you move to the practitioner. That's the 24-hour mark. This person is actively strengthening the no muscle. They are fighting. They are using the drills. But then there is the warrior.
40+ hours.
This is a completely different state of being.
The transition from practitioner to warrior is really the key insight of the whole text.
Break down that transition for us. What changes?
Okay, the practitioner is entirely focused on willpower. They are constantly saying no. They are white-knuckling it through the day. I will not eat. I will not look. I will not complain.
It's exhausting.
It is incredibly draining. But the warrior moves fundamentally beyond just saying no.
What do they do instead?
They move to a state of complete, total reliance on the word.
Complete reliance.
Yes. So you can only say no for so long before your human willpower completely runs dry. The warrior has learned how to feed on a completely different energy source. They aren't just emptying their stomachs of food, they're actively filling their spirits with the word.
Wow.
They have mastered that synthesis of purity, the clear vision, and courage, the unshakable stance, to the point where they are no longer wielding scripture as a desperate last-minute defense. They are wielding it as their primary sustaining energy source.
So the practitioner is just trying to survive the fast. The warrior is actually energized by it.
Exactly. Think back to Jesus in the wilderness. He didn't just barely survive the 40 days and crawl out of the desert. The text notes that he came out in the power of the Spirit.
He was charged up.
He was fully charged. That is the warrior level.
That is the ultimate goal, to not just endure the combat, but to actually be sharpened and energized by it.
Yes, that is the true purpose of the dojo.
The source ends with what they call an after-action report. And it makes this really great point. A martial artist always bows at the exact moment the session ends.
Right. It's about respect for the mat. And it's about proper recovery. The source strictly advises that when you finally break your fast, you don't just dive into a massive pizza and immediately start scrolling online again.
You don't just undo all the training.
No.
You seal the training.
The text says, break your fast with gratitude.
You sit down and you pray a deliberate prayer of thanksgiving. You acknowledge the battle you just fought. You ask God to show you exactly where you dropped your guard, where you failed the visual sweep.
An actual after-action review.
And you ensure that even though you are eating physical food again, your hand is still resting right on the hilt of the sword. You stay ready.
Because a spiritual war doesn't just pause because lunch is finally served.
No, the dojo of the heart is always open.
Well, this has been an incredibly rigorous session. I feel like I need to go do some push-ups or maybe go read a psalm.
Honestly, probably both. Yeah, probably both. As we sign off today, we want to leave you with a final provocation. The source material is very heavy on deep self-examination. So here is the thought we want you to take with you into your week.
Think about this one.
Next time you feel a sudden pang of hunger or a quick flicker of fear about your life, ask yourself right in that moment, is this just biology or is this an attack?
It's usually an attack.
And if it is an attack, do you actually have a countermove ready to go? Or are you just standing there on the mat completely defenseless?
Don't wait for the war to learn how to fight.
Thanks for diving in with us. We'll see you in the next one. Stay sharp out there.